In 5, 4, 3, 2. Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, we'll be talking to the legendary founder of Madeleine and his wonderful nonprofit. He has 20/20 vision when it comes to helping kids learn. That's just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, one of the secret recipes to success is giving back to the community. And to talk about that today, Patrick Esquerre, she is the founder of Madeleine. Thank you so much for being in the studio.
I'm so glad to be here today.
Well, before we get into your amazing nonprofit, I have to tell you, and he confessed this just before we went on the air, he says, everybody thinks I'm a great chef, and I don't know how to cook an egg. I'm sure that's not true, but how did a non-chef get to be the head of an empire like Madeleine?
You know, the question is not knowing. The question is discovering. Okay, everybody. If somebody knows something, is going to replicate what he knows. If somebody doesn't know something, is going to find ways, different ways, to be better than the other one. So that's what it is. It's a challenge, and you grab the challenge, and what you do, you find ways, to in fact discover the thing, the other ways to do it, and surprise. That's the key point. If you surprise people, you win them.
Yes, and we were talking just before we went on the air that one of your heroes, the late great Stanley Marcus. Tell us that story.
Okay, Stanley Marcus. By the way, when I came here, I didn't know anybody. And maybe one of the first person I've met here by accident was Stanley Marcus. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know what Neiman Marcus was, coming from another planet. Okay, so then he was there and asked me questions and so on. Said, so why are you here? So I said, I'm here to create a French bakery. Oh, an authentic French country bakery near SMU, going to be a winner. I said, sir, can you repeat that? Wrote it down on a piece of paper, and it became the La Madeleine business plan, and it is still the business plan.
No kidding.
Okay, yes, it is. Okay, and then so I found the first location, near SMU.
Yes.
Then after that, I discovered that, in fact, Mr. Marcus was who he was. And I said, wow. So then I did everything I could to make him a good friend. And then he became an American father. I mean, he was there all the time. He helped me so much. Not spending much time, but each time he was with me was always the best advices I could have.
Wow.
It was wonderful.
Well, I encourage you to...
And I still do one thing.
What's that?
He passed away, nearly 20 years ago now. But I still do WWMMD. What would Mr. Marcus do?
Wow.
All the time. When I make a decision, I said, okay, what would he do? And I say, thank you, Mr. Marcus, because I got the...
Oh, my goodness. I'm sure he is smiling and receiving...
I don't know if he's smiling, but I'm smiling.
Well, I encourage my audience to follow Mr. Esquerre on social media. Patrick, okay, on social media, because he has these wonderful tips, and I want to share one of them with you now.
My motto is this: listen, adapt, surprise. If you don't listen to a woman, you're in trouble. If you ask a woman to adapt to you, it doesn't work. You have to adapt to the women, and then you surprise the women. And then if you surprise her, you get anything you want. So then very quickly, they came and they said, bread is okay, the pastry is fine, but what about a sandwich, salad, a soup, something else? Chicken or something. So then I panicked because I didn't know anything about it. When you panic, what do? You call mom. I called my mother. She came over. She spent 2 months here and she started the food. And the food now represents maybe 90% of the business, or 7, I don't know exactly how much, but the food that makes La Madeleine be what it is now. The bread, of course, is very important because it is a perception of what we do. So the more I was listening to them, the more they were happy, and the more they did everything they could. The best promotion was the word of mouth of all these ladies, because they were everywhere talking about La Madeleine.
Wow, those are some words of wisdom. I have to tell you, I cannot think about La Madeleine without just thinking of the smell. As soon as you walk in, you are just overwhelmed with this wonderful smell of...
Yes, because everything is made there, because there's nothing, made somewhere else. So it's made there, so then you get the smell, you get the oven, and the oven generates smells, okay? So that's what it is.
And it's beautiful, and it's warm, and it's inviting. It does feel like coming into a home.
Yes, because that's another thing that Mr. Marcus told me. Make it a home away from home. And then it became a home away from home, okay? So listen to people. It's gold, okay? And we don't listen enough, okay?
Yes.
We need to be like a sponge and get everything, from because, a woman is always right. That's what I hear every day, from my sweetheart. I'm always right, which is true, because they know exactly what they like, what they don't like, and so on. And if you do that, you're going to win them. And you cannot make a mistake.
This is a brilliant man here. Listen to women. I've learned that lesson well. Victoria Snee, love you. Listen to you all the time. Well, let's talk about your nonprofit.
If I may say something about the
yes.
women, because the Dallas women are the one who made La Madeleine. It's not me. Because when I started this, by the way, I did a great decision. I discovered there was nothing for women, no place for them. Between the fast food and the steakhouse, there was nothing. So then I said, why not take care of women? Okay. By the way, I love women as a general because they're wonderful. And then the second thing is, I said, no architect, no designer, they know better than anybody else what they like and what they don't like. So then, no architect, no designer, no consultant, just my women told me what they wanted.
Wow.
And that's it. And what you see at La Madeleine is what they wanted. And that's why it worked very well. And then for 10 years, I'm an advertising guy, okay? Yeah. For 10 years, I didn't spend one penny in advertising. They were doing my job.
Wow. Now, let's talk about, before we get into your nonprofit, it's one thing to have an amazing first concept at SMU, but then as you grow, sometimes companies, as they grow, they kind of lose that sense of excellence, but yours consistently, every La Madeleine I've ever visited has been just exemplary in terms of the experience.
Yeah, but it's not very complicated. You need to create a family. That's the other thing. Very, very important. I'm not a corporate guy, to be honest with you. I'm an entrepreneur, okay? And I try to create a spirit, something there which is different from anybody else, where people belong to a family. And this is what I did, by the way, with 40 different nationalities and so on, people coming from France, from everywhere and so on. So I had no choice. I created a family. And the family spirit was so strong. Then when they went to Washington, D.C., opening 6 or 7 other bakeries and so on, the spirit went there. And this is how it worked. Very simple. Wow. And the guests belong to the family. That's very, very important.
And you can learn French if you go to the restaurant.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about your amazing nonprofit and how this got started.
It started, years ago with a company called Essilor, which is, by the way, based here in US. It's a French company, but they are based in Farmers Branch. And the CEO, Hubert Sanière, which is a good friend, told me one day, because I did a bunch of things in the past, to develop La Madeleine awareness and goodwill and so on. So I did a bunch of things, with charities and so on. And mostly with the food bank, and PBS and all that. So then, in fact, what was interesting is that he said, Patrick, I've seen you did a bunch of things, in the charitable world. Can you help me to start a charity? The briefing was very simple, that my people feel good, and then we do good to somebody. Then I discovered that there was something there that nobody was in fact interested in or knew, which in fact kids. A little kid, we discovered that 20% or 22% of the children, in elementary schools don't see well.
Wow.
Okay? If a child doesn't see well, he cannot look at the board, everybody knows that, but it's much more than that. He cannot play balls. He cannot go to the movie. He cannot, by the way, one little kid told me one day after he got his glasses, oh, wow, now I can go by myself back home, because he could not. So then the little kid there start to be frustrated, okay? So he's frustrated because he cannot do the same thing as the other kid. So being frustrated means they are going to have a tendency to do other things. And some of the other things could be bad things, okay? The teens that do a bunch of, about that, okay? So then what we did, we say, okay, we are going to take care of this 20% of the children by going to schools with mobile clinics and so on. So you have mobile clinics in which you have two optometrists, and then they take care of the child. If you don't pass, so then they give you a prescription. And then most of the glasses are made there on the spot.
No kidding.
Given to the kid the same day. Okay, and then we discovered one thing. We discovered that in fact, if in a class of 20, if you have 4 of them who receive the glasses, the score of the class, the whole class goes from something like 82, 84 to 94, 95.
Amazing.
Because these kids, first they can see, but they don't disturb the other kids and the teacher. And if you do it as we did at Everman with 3,000 children over 5 or 6 years, you discover that all the children, none of them was passing to go to college or whatever and so on. Now 100% pass, which is absolutely amazing.
Wow.
So
we're going to put the website up so everybody can see, look at some of those eye-opening facts.
So the Kid Vision Coalition with Essilor Vision Foundation is one, and this is the one we're starting now. Okay. Which is in fact that we're just starting it. Okay. Yes. Where we are going to contribute in parallel, with Essilor Vision Foundation to go to places where Essilor Vision Foundation cannot go. Okay. So that's what we're doing. Okay?
Tell me, are teachers trained to spot a child who might have trouble seeing? Because a child may not know that they can't see.
Yes, so the parents or whoever watch the kid, please find ways to have what we call the screening, eye screening, when we can find out if the children sees well or not. By the way, I want to take my own example. And by the way, Mayor Rawlings was the same thing.
Yes.
He said my parents didn't know that I had a bad vision. Okay.
No kidding.
So then my parents discovered that when I was 14 years old. Wow. Before that, I was unable to read.
Wow.
Okay. I was unable to read.
And it makes such a difference. And sometimes a child might be acting out of frustration, or they could end up bullying or being bullied.
Or they shrink on themselves, and then they are isolated. They don't enjoy the life like everybody else.
Yes.
Either they do bad things or either they isolate themselves.
Yes. Now, I want to apologize to you publicly
because you don't have to apologize for anything.
You were one of the celebrity judges at a celebrity chef contest, which I don't know how I got in it, but I want to apologize for you having to eat my cooking. It was horrible. He was very kind. He would say something like, "It's not my favorite."
Okay, but anyway, I tell you one thing. I respect. This is two words in life that are very, very important: love and respect. Okay. So never be negative with somebody. Never, never, never. If there's something you don't like, convert it in something positive and say, oh, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? This is what Stanley Marcus was doing all the time.
Really? Mm-hmm. Give us some, since you mentioned Stanley Marcus again, give us some other lessons you learned from Stanley Marcus.
The main lesson, maybe it's something that, in fact, by the way, it's interesting because everybody talks about mentors and so on. For me, a mentor is what? Is a combination of nature and good common sense. Very simple, okay? Yes. I was born and raised on a beautiful farm in the Chateau country and so on. And for 20 years, I was on this farm, and it was absolutely superb. I learned, the balance, in your life, and sure. and the good common sense. And this is what we say. For example, people write books about positivism and things like this. This is good common sense. There's nothing else, okay? Yes. So it's the same thing. So Stanley Marcus was Mr. Good Common Sense, okay? And the good common sense means what? Okay, I want to go there. So what do I need to go there?
Yes.
Using the good common sense. Okay. So this is what it was. And Mr. Marcus was very good at observing. He was curious about everything. Okay, that was great. By the way, he had, I don't know, many collections of things. Okay.
Sure.
The second thing is he was listening, curious and so on. The second thing, he was always careful, cherishing his audience. Okay, could be his women, at Neiman Marcus, or could be, when he was giving speeches or so on. Always listening to his audience. I don't know if you heard what happened with Amazon or somebody like this in New York. You remember that? Okay.
Yes, of course.
Okay, the T-shirt. Okay.
Yes.
So then the third thing is details. Okay, details is like you build something with bricks. All these little details is going to build the building.
Yes.
Okay. So this and every details have to be great details. Okay. If you have one detail which is not good, not going to work.
Well, I remember how I had the pleasure of meeting him just one time, and I remember him just being so put together. Every attention to detail, even on his own attire.
Yes.
He always dressed up, didn't he?
Yes. And by the way, he dressed up in Paris. I know where he was, and so on. And he got la Légion d'honneur, which is the French distinction.
Well, we're almost out of time. So, final thoughts. That's your camera right there. If you want to speak to the audience, what final words of encouragement would you give to the audience?
Okay, so we go through a difficult time now. Okay, so by the way, that does not happen only here. It happens in Europe. It happens everywhere, and so on. The thing is, let's not look at the bad effect on this on our life. Let's look at the future and say, okay, what can we do first to pass this? Okay. And by the way, one thing is this, okay? All right?
Oh, I like it. Well branded.
Okay.
Nice branding.
Okay, that is one thing. And the second thing is nothing political. There's no political there, okay?
Yes.
Just do this respect yourself, respect others, and so on. So then look at the future and say, okay, what can we do listening to what's happening now, adapting to the situation that we are now, to be ready for what's going to happen after that. Okay, yes. First to pass this and to be ready after that, and beyond difficult time like this, there is always something good. Okay, we went in Europe and in France, to big wars. Okay, and thank you America for helping us in Stein. It was wonderful. But we went to this, and I tell you, after each war, which was very, very difficult. Okay. Everything boomed again. Life came back again, and happiness came back again. Okay, so we call the 30 glorieuses, les 30 glorieuses. I don't know what you say in English, but the 30 years that went very well after because everybody after that feel good about themselves, and then they're building and they're all together. Yes. To make the things happen in the right way. So that's what I would say. So listen, adapt, surprise. This is what it is. Very simple.
I love it. What an inspiration, and thank you for your gift of wisdom to my audience. We're going to end with your website, the Kids Vision Coalition. It's kidsvisionco.org is the website, and please get a hold of Patrick through there and give generously.
So the website is not very active yet because we're working on it, so excuse us about that. But we'll put some address if you are interested. You can just contact us. Okay.
Outstanding. Patrick, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Merci.
You bet.
À bientôt.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.